Welcome to Good Books Radio. I'm Dr. W.F. Strong. I'm your host today. Our subject today is not a specific book, but it's a publishing house that you've all heard of, Penguin Books. Penguin Books is celebrating 80 years of being in business, and to that end, they are publishing a lot of specialty books this year from the Penguin Classic line. So we have Patrick Nolan on the phone. We're going to talk to him. He's the vice president of Penguin Books. We're honored to have such a high-level member of the publishing world stop by, so to speak, and talk to us. Before we get there, I want to thank audiobooks.com for underwriting Good Books Radio. If you want to hear this interview again, you can hear it later on Good Books Radio Facebook or Good Books Radio YouTube. So let's go talk to Patrick Nolan right now. I want to ask, in the history of Penguin, did you start out publishing those penny dreadfuls? Was that part of your market?
The penny dreadfuls. Well, Alan Lane started out publishing Hemingway, Agatha Christie. So I'm not sure.
Okay, well, the penny dreadfuls were back about Oscar Wilde's time, about 1900. One of the first of the mass-produced books. And we had them in America, a version of them, the dime novel they call them. So.
Okay. In fact, sorry, I should know my history better than I do, but I'm glad I'm speaking with you because you do. And I think the thing that Alan was doing when he founded the company 80 years ago was almost coming up against those types of books.
Okay.
I've always had them in my mind. I've always thought of them as kind of Victorian pulp novels, but I think they're the same things that we're talking about. And I mean, he literally was out having lunch with Agatha Christie one day and was at a train station looking for a book to read, and all he could find were magazines, newspapers, and these penny dreadfuls or Victorian pulp books that he didn't want to read, and he just felt that was wrong. And he himself was part of the reason for that because he was at Bodley Head at the time, and they were a traditional publisher publishing great literature only in hardcover, selling it to the kind of carriage trade stores in London and the market towns, and so he had this idea that he wanted to bring really great books to a wider audience outside of the traditional book retail market, but also to that market, and that's how Penguin was born, with these 10 paperback books.
Just those 10.
Really good books.
Well, I mean, Penguin is known. I guess everybody's gone to college has read a Penguin classic.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I first encountered Penguin myself. I remember lining up the Penguins on the shelf. And I can still, 15 years ago, I was talking about that at my interview. And so it's kind of amazing to be where I am today working on this list of books with all these incredible, talented editors and authors. It's a dream come true in many ways.
So this is the 80th anniversary, and so you are republishing a lot of the great classics in better and cooler form than ever, right?
We are, yeah. And in this year in particular, we're celebrating the centennial births of both Saul Bellow and Arthur Miller with some really beautiful deluxe books. We did an incredible edition of Herzog to celebrate Bellow, and coming up in October with Henry Miller's centennial, we're doing the collected plays. The first time we've ever done this, a massive 1,200-page collection of all his plays in a beautiful edition. We're sort of stepping outside of the Penguin standard procedures here and doing a beautiful slipcased hardcover in addition to a deluxe paperback as well. And we'll have some really wonderful events around the country celebrating Miller. So yeah, and our classics publishing program in general has, under the direction of our editorial director, Elder Roeder, she's brought so much energy and creativity to new packaging and new ways of bringing these great works to a new audience, younger audiences, and people who love books and really every aspect of the book, the design, the page, the paper, as well as the incredible work itself. So really proud of the way Penguin Classics evolves, yet continues to be the standard with 1,300 books in print on our list.
Oh, yeah, they're beautiful books. I got Herzog. We did a show the other day on Saul Bellow. And,
oh, wow.
And so I received from Penguin these wonderful new publications that are just, beautiful books. And in a day of digital media, it's nice to see publishers, reaching back into tradition and bringing out really, truly beautiful books that are rewarding to hold.
Yeah, and it's a real conscious effort. I mean, we have the digital in mind when we're doing it, and we are in no way stepping away from the digital. It's an important part of our business, but we also know that the success of books and the life of books depends on both formats being their best. So for the physical book, it really means going all out and producing beautiful books, and we're trying to do that. And at the same time, though, we are mindful of that original mission of Alan Lane to make books accessible and affordable. So we try to do it within reason, and making sure that our list is accessible in terms of the price point.
Well, your reputation for many years has been classics, but how do you find new authors these days? How do new authors come to you?
It's a good question. It's funny. I mean, when I'm out sort of meeting people at parties, different things, when you talk about Penguin, they immediately remember classics and know classics and love the classics brand, just like I did. But there's this whole other bigger Penguin story that's part of that story that includes contemporary writers, big best-selling authors. We currently have the #1 best-selling book in America right now with Daniel James Brown, Boys in the Boat, best-selling nonfiction.
I interviewed.
Harper Lee is beating us in total sales, but we do have this vibrant, active publishing program, and finding new authors is what our editors spend most of their days working on, meeting agents, getting submissions, staying up late at night, getting up early in my case because I can't stay awake, and reading books that are coming in and looking for those new exciting voices. And it's a lot of reading, it's a lot of work, and we read a lot before we find something we're super excited about and want to get behind. But it all starts with that relationship of the editor and the text, discovering it for the first time, and bringing it to first the smaller audience of the editorial meeting, but bringing it to a meeting and having it sort of go through the process, leading eventually, hopefully, to acquisition, and then the fun starts.
Well, I was reading just last week The Martian. It's not one of your books. But I think it's Simon & Schuster, and it's being made into a movie with, what's his name? Can't remember. But anyways, Matt Damon is being made into a movie with Matt Damon, and I was surprised to find that it was first published as an Amazon book, self-published for 99 cents, and it did so well that it got noticed. And then they bought it, and then within a week, he had the movie rights sold too. So, one of those rare publishing miracles that happens from time to time. So,
there are a few of those incredible stories out there. It doesn't happen all that often, but I think again, the examples are out there. But those books are truly great books that. One way or the other are probably going to fall into the hands of one of the publishers, I would think.
So your idea is that talent will be discovered. If you're truly talented, they will find you.
I'd like to think that. There's so many people dedicated to making that happen. We work closely with agents primarily, but not always. And the agents are really good. We have sort of a trusted front line that bring a lot of really great talent to us. No doubt there's a lot of talent out there that's not yet discovered. That's sort of the fun about the next 80 years.
Yes. Well, but isn't it easier today than ever before? I mean, it used to be that if you wanted a book published in the 60s, I mean, you had to have a brother-in-law working in publishing, someone who could, get your your manuscript before the right people. And today there's a lot of avenues to be discovered, I think.
There's definitely a lot of avenues to discovery, and so yeah, I think in some ways it's easier, in some ways it's harder, because there's just so much more out there to be, in effect, discovered. So getting sort of noticed, I think, is a challenge in a way that maybe in the past there wasn't even a chance of getting noticed, and now it feels like every tool's out there, yet how do you make that happen? And I feel like, that's one of our big challenges for the current time and the next future 80 years for Penguin is being in tune with how people do discover and make choices, and in effect that has changed so much in the last few years, yet the consistency is that people still really are looking for great books to read. The readership overall in this country has increased. The intensity around books and the energy, just looking at what's happening with Harper and Lee in the last couple of weeks is a good example, but it's a vital part of our culture. You mentioned the movies. We have a book on our backlist, In the Heart of the Sea, which won the National Book Award more than a decade ago, and thankfully we kept it in print and kept selling it, and Ron Howard read it and bought the film rights, and now we're going to have this big Hollywood film at the end of the year, and it's just another great way to introduce this incredible story to another wave of readers that in a way we wouldn't even had the chance if we hadn't kept the book in print. So but it's a challenge. I mean, there's so much we're competing with out there in terms of the attention and the way people are discovering what they're going to read next.
Do you think, say, in 50 years, we're going to find that physical books are rare? Is everything going to be 80% digital? And what do you think?
I have no idea, but I'm skeptical that that's going to happen, just because I've lived through this digital revolution where a lot of my colleagues and rival publishing heads were predicting that physical books would be gone now. When today, while we're speaking, they would be done and bookstores would be gone. And of course that's not the case. There was this dramatic year-on-year increase in digital sales that's now kind of steadied, and I think there's a solid market for digital books, and there's a lot of people who prefer it. There are people who read both formats, physical and digital, and but when you see kind of the next generation of readers, people still love books.
Yeah, I hear people all the time, they say, "Oh, I love the smell of the book."
Yeah.
You don't get that on digital.
Just having it on your shelf. I mean, it would be so boring if I had to show my library on my Kindle or Nook. It's just not the same. Yet at the same time, I love it. I mean, I'm getting on a plane tonight, and I'll have my iPad loaded up with lots of things to read. But the physical book, I don't think, is going to go away. What we've found is that the demographic, our core digital reader, tends to actually be slightly older than our main demographic for readers, and the younger generation is actually reading less digitally and more physically.
That's true. That's true. I find that amazing. I teach at the university, and I had a digital reader before virtually anybody, and my students would say to me, "Oh, but I got to have the book," and I would say, "You're the digital generation. What are you talking about? You got to have the book." So they were, it's kind of reverse of what you would normally expect by demographic. But I think one of the reasons the older generations like the digital readers, because you can enlarge the print.
Exactly. I think that's true, and I'm starting to think I might need to do that. But that's one of the big pluses for sure. But and I think in the end too, the great thing is that now there's a choice, and another reason it's another reason to read. You have it accessed the way you want it.
You can do it anywhere, and you can can also switch from text to audio. The programs that allow you to be reading at home, and then you go in the car and it'll pick up the audio version right where you left off. That's cool.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So I want to talk about this set that you have called the Little Black Classics box set that you're going to produce. That sounds really, really wonderful. How much is that going to cost?
Yeah. I think it's about $120. I should know that, but I don't have it right in front of me.
But that's not bad.
80 books, and it's 80 really beautifully, kind of minimally designed black and white books. Little black classics, we're calling them. Very elegant, and they're 80 works, some complete, some partial pieces of great classic literature. Some are going to be things that everyone knows and loves, and others are going to be totally new discoveries for almost anyone. Someone who's read all 1,300 books on our backlist of Penguin Classics might find no surprises, but most people will find some gems that they've never encountered before. And the idea is it's just a really great, single, beautiful, collectible set that would be great for holiday gift giving and kind of really speak to what Penguin Classics is all about.
Oh, I think it's a great idea. It used to be you go into people's libraries. Very common to see these huge sets of the great books, and some people still go out and search these out through eBay and other things to get the the massive collections. But it's rare, really, to be able to go out and buy them new. So I think that's great that you're doing that.
Yeah, it's fun, and I love walking into a house or an apartment and seeing all the Penguin Classics lined up on a shelf, kind of together in a collection, and you just don't see anyone doing that with any other book, any other publishing set. So it's kind of a beautiful thing, and this is like a mini version of that.
I was thinking of one of the first times I ran into a fun comment on Penguin Classics as I was reading Woody Allen's short story about intellectual prostitutes, and they were made to look really exciting because they worked in the back of a college bookstore, and they had no makeup, and they would sit in the back leafing through Penguin Classics. That was their appeal. I love Woody Allen. Have you ever read that?
I have not, but I'm going to make a note of it because I want to read it. It sounds fun.
It's called, let me see, The Detective is Kaiser Lupowitz, written in the style of, Sam Spade or something. And, the title is The Whore of Mensa. It's a great little book. I mean, great. Sorry, it's a great short story. It's only like 8 pages. It's just funny.
Okay. Oh, it sounds fun.
Read it on the plane.
I will.
Now you worked on the Help, right? The book, The Help.
Yeah, I've been at Penguin Books as the editor-in-chief and associate publisher for about 3.5 years, and prior to that, I had a sales position for the entire Penguin group, which included Penguin Books, but other imprints as well. So I was able to work in the capacity as sales director on the huge success that The Help was, and also Khaled Hosseini's Kite Runner, and then the Penguin successes of Eat, Pray, Love, and Memory Keeper's Daughter.
So when you do something,
Bees.
When you do something like The Help, do you go out and find the movie? Do you go out and sell the movie rights actively, or do they come to you asking about them, or how does that work?
With rights for film, almost always these days, the agent holds the rights on behalf of the author, and the agent is the one that makes the film deal.
Okay.
With a few exceptions, but mostly it's in the hands of the agent. We as publishers, when we're acquiring, I'd say the largest sort of bag of rights we might have would be having world rights and the rights to the audio and the rights to first serial in terms of publishing excerpts in magazines, like substantial excerpts that aren't just a short quote or something. But the film rights tend to stay with the agent. But we work together, and we're so excited when a deal is made, that's for sure. And with The Help, it was really interesting because it was one of those books that was just selling and selling and selling in hardcover, and the film deal was made, and the film was produced very quickly because the studios felt that it was really important to come out fast because it was such a big success. So that actually drove the publishing decision to put the book out into paperback, because the movie tie-in is almost always in paperback when it's successful. So that sort of triggered the decision. Usually in our business, we tend to, if we're going to publish in hardcover, we publish the hardcover, and about a year later we publish the paperback. But there are these exceptional books that just sell and sell and sell, and there's no reason to stop the momentum and move it into another format. But the film sort of forced the card, so to speak, into paperback.
I remember way back when Larry McMurtry published Lonesome Dove, his Pulitzer Prize-winning book. You couldn't get on an airplane; that book wasn't laying around. It was everywhere. And then the movie was sold, the movie rights, and then they sold even greater numbers in paperback, even though it was 900 pages. It was a huge success.
Yeah, it's really. I love the movie tie-in business for us because it really just becomes an opportunity to get a story out in front of an audience, and there's so many people. I think our main market actually likes to read the book before the film comes out, so they can have that in mind when they watch the film. And so, for example, we have a book on our list by actually a colleague of mine who's an editor over at Random House, because we're now all one company under Penguin Random House. David Ebershoff wrote The Danish Girl, and Viking Penguin published this book more than 15 years ago, and it's now being turned into a movie starring Eddie Redmayne, and it's about the first transsexual, and the timing is
very
incredible,
timely, yes.
Given, and so here's a beautiful book, a beautiful novel that had a really great, strong success when it was published more than 15 years ago. It's now going to have an incredible new life because of the film. So it's exciting just to know that there's going to be this bigger market out there to discover David's book.
I was shocked when I read recently in the New York Times that Harper Lee's book, The Tequila Mockingbird, still generates $8,000 in royalties every month for her. I thought after all these years, I went, wow.
I was impressed when I read that myself.
Oh, did you read it? Yeah? Man.
Yeah.
That's amazing. No wonder she never wrote again. She could just sit back and relax.
She's definitely one of those rare exceptions. But it is really wonderful to see a book like that live a life that has essentially a life of its own, and it has a new group, a new generation of both students and non-students coming to it every year after year. And, we see that with John Steinbeck's works. To be honest, we see it with Sue Monk Kidd already. She's a classic in herself with Secret Life of Bees. I mean, every summer the sales on that book increase so dramatically because students are reading it for their summer reading assignments. So
really? How interesting.
It's a really great thing to see that there are these books that are becoming embedded in our culture that are actually not even all that old.
Well, can you, for instance, get like the Tequila Mockingbird? That's not your book, right? I don't forget.
Right.
But if you wanted to publish it as a Penguin classic, could you? Could you get the rights to do it?
Theoretically, we could. We'd have to convince Harper Collins to let us do that, and they would be crazy to let us do that, but I would love for them to do it. But because of that royalty you just mentioned, they probably wouldn't do it. But basically, when I first started in this business, the idea of publishers selling paperback rights to paperback focused lists like Penguin was very common, and we had a list that was quite large, from great houses like Farrar Straus and Knopf and Harper Collins and lots of places. But over the years, everyone's kind of figured out that Alan Lane had a really good idea 80 years ago in doing these paperbacks, and they've developed their own lists. So that happens less and less.
So do they still
occasionally? We got a special license to do a beautiful edition of George Orwell's Why I Write from Houghton Mifflin. They were very kind to license it to us for one of our Penguin Classic series.
Great.
And so it does happen. Yeah.
Well, I was wondering about places like Walmart that have fairly significant paperback shelving. Do you sell there successfully? Do you have a pretty good market in such places?
We do. It's interesting. Walmart's probably one of the accounts. It's one of the largest booksellers for my bigger company for Penguin Random House, but they tend to sell books in the mass market format, the lower price paperback format than they do the trade paperback. So they'll be selling In the Heart of the Sea like crazy, and they're selling Boys in the Boat and a lot of our best-selling books, but they don't sell as many of our titles as I would love for them to sell, partly because they feel their shopper prefers the mass market format and price.
Well, it's very interesting that you're everywhere.
Yeah, it's a challenge, but we're always trying when we acquire a book, we're always thinking about where we can find our readers, and our goal is always to hopefully find as many readers as possible, but also that means being out in as many markets as possible. So into gift retailers, into stores like Urban Outfitters and Anthropology, the traditional bookstores, Target, Walmart, airports, grocery stores. So anywhere where anyone's willing to sell a book, we want to make sure Penguin's there if we can. In a way, that's exactly what Alan Lane was doing 80 years ago. So it's shocking that somebody did this, set up our business plan that works now in 2015 North America over in London, sitting in the basement of a church 80 years ago.
Oh, that's true.
It's incredible.
All right, so is there anything that you have coming out soon that you're really hyped up about? I mean, obviously we talked about the little black box set and that sort of thing, but any particular title or book that's going to be coming out that you think will be a big seller?
Yeah, we have a few things that I'm excited about. I mean, kind of right on the immediate horizon, just going on sale right now, we have this really great psychological thriller by Elizabeth Little called Dear Daughter, which I think for anyone who has been hooked on books like Girl on the Train and Silent Voice and Gone Girl, they're going to want to go for this one next because the great thing, I love these kinds of books, but the great thing is they're all distinctive and they all do something that each of the others doesn't. And Dear Daughter is singular in that way too. It's a really exciting, very unreliable story of a mother-daughter that is not in any way an ideal story, but a lot of fun.
Well, I tell you what, my wife has devoured that genre, and it makes me nervous. Well, we're out of time. I want to thank you so much for stopping by, so to speak, and talking to us. And I'm looking forward to a lot of these books that you're going to release soon in the box set, and I'm going to get that for sure.
It was really fun, and I really appreciate it. And it's been great celebrating our anniversary with you.
Okay, well, we will certainly promote it and celebrate with you. Have a great day.
Okay, thanks, Bill.
Bye-bye. We've been talking to Patrick Nolan, Vice President of Penguin Books. He had a lot to teach us about the publishing world and publishing industry and how you might get published if that's your dream. I'm W.F. Strong for Good Books Radio, thanking audiobooks.com for underwriting the program. Here's hoping that all your books are good reads. Have a good day.